Hello everyone, it's me, back again with the new banger or whatever people say these days about their videos. Or I don't even know, man. It's been a tough year. Okay, so first off, I just want to show off the new tattoos. I got the Linkway emblem for the Linkway. A friend of mine playfully nodded at the fact that for the Shirai Ryu. By the way, I am a Scorpion fanboy myself, just like the good old Ed Boon, but I chose to get the Linkway tattoo because there are no known instances of the Shirai Ryu emblem anywhere on the internet, so for the Linkway. And the one right before it was the Carpe Diem. Hold on, I just gotta get closer to the camera real quick. It's cool, it's good stuff. Huge shout out to Medhat San Pedro, my Filipino-Egyptian friend who did these tattoos, and he's one hell of a wonderful artist. I feel like a NASCAR vehicle right now, just advertising my wares. And I could not have been any happier being an inked person and joining the club, basically, for all of those of you who may be tattooed yourselves. Again, huge shout out once again to Medhat San Pedro and 13 Jinx on Instagram for the wonderful tattoos they did for me. Thank you so much. Now, before we get into more of this, it's winter. And right now it's 16 Celsius. So I gotta get dressed on real quick.
A few moments later.
There are no pros of being tattooed in the winter. The only cons is that you don't get to show off your tattoos in the winter. Hi again, welcome everyone to another episode of Linux with Mykers Gharib. You did not know this nickname about me just yet, now you do. And it has been what, 4 years? 4 years of me and my friend, who shall not be named, not just yet, using Linux as a daily driver. This has been an adventure. This has been a journey, and I cannot be ever more thankful for the idea that popped in my friend's head. I went Leroy Jenkins on that idea, and I thought, well, yeah, let's just do that. Let's just go. Let's just do it. Let's just jump on the bandwagon, and that I did. I turned my entire system, file system, to ext4, and I'm not going back. I'm not going back. This has been fun. Sorry. What have been the news? What have been the deets since I started using Linux? Well, I don't actually use the first distro I've used since then, since 2021 when I started using Pop! OS, which at the time was 21.10, I think. Right now I use CachyOS. Yeah, I'm actually very stoked to tell you that I am not going back to Pop! OS. No. Yes, I know, it's more comfortable that way. I know that Pop! OS at some point was my comfort distro. It has always been my comfort distro. And I was very stoked to see the Cosmic DE and all that. But then again, when I thought about it, I was like, I'm more comfortable just being in Cachy, thank you very much. Because, first of all, I use Arch, by the way. And second of all, the developers of CachyOS are doing God's work with this. I think it lives up to its name because Cachy, from cache, this cache. I don't know what the relation to this cache is with performance, but it kind of like connects in my head with something. Releases all of the clutter and gives your machine the leeway and the space to perform as it should. And that's how it works, really. I'm not a computer magician. As much as I'm a computer nerd, I don't really understand the workings behind how CachyOS does what it does. When you first install it, from my personal understanding, I may be wrong and I may be right, but when it first installs your system, it personalizes the kernel to your hardware so that it works as intended and works flawlessly as per your hardware's capabilities, which is amazing. Actually, I think this is how every distro should work. I think this is true Linux supremacy. And I see CachyOS popping off as it should. While it takes more time to set up, when you think about it, it really takes a lot more time to set up because it is personalized for your hardware, for your computer, for your resources. Even in the documentation for CachyOS, you still have ways to understand how the system can be tweaked when you change hardware, when you change your GPU or CPU or RAM or whatnot. And when you need to fix something in your software, when you need to change DEs and all that, which is great. I personally recommend that you install just the KDE flavor. You don't need any more than that. I know for some of us who prefer GNOME, personally I prefer GNOME more than anything else. But just go for KDE. Even if you have NVIDIA, just use the KDE. Sadly, KDE is just Wayland. Maybe I didn't search long and hard enough for KDE Xorg so that it fits with my needs, editing audio and all that. Speaking of which, let's just get into that. I'm talking technical specifications when it comes to using Linux, but for some of us who are not concerned with that and just want our computers to work, I have great news actually for you. The year of the Linux desktop has always been around. Some of you are honestly still stuck talking about, well, Linux is not still good for gaming, but it's good for servers. Is this narrative still going on in 2025? No, that's not even remotely true. Linux has been doing gaming for a while. Proton CachyOS, Proton EM, Proton GE. To you, I'm speaking in tongues, but I've been doing Linux gaming for a while. I know some of the games that you like, and as I mentioned in a previous video, PUBG, which, hey, I don't expect someone who plays PUBG to, be able to use Linux, but, yeah, not my proudest moment. Yeah, some of the games you do like are not yet supported by the system due to anti-cheat modules, but then again, these are problems you have with the people who made the modules, not with Linux, because Windows games now are compatible with Linux via Proton, via the compatibility layer that is Proton. Proton, after all, is a compatibility layer. It does not emulate. Wine is not an emulator. He said the thing. He said, oh, wow. Wine is not an emulator, and neither is Proton. Proton does not emulate computer games for you, or does not emulate Windows games for you. What it does is basically optimize Windows games so that they can run flawlessly on Linux. On CachyOS, it's a lot better now, because sometimes you see a lot more performance bumps on Linux than on Windows, which is crazy if you ask me, because if a game runs better on Linux with a compatibility layer than on Windows, where Windows is the only native OS that can run it, that or Mac OS in certain cases, then your fucking OS is gonna burn. Sorry, I took that a little bit too personally. I fucking hate I fucking hate fuck Microsoft. I cannot bring myself to understand why people still hate on Linux that much. But then again, when you think about it, people hate what they don't understand. You have not tried installing Linux on your computer. The guides are there. You can basically set up Linux on a brand new, fresh laptop or a PC that has not had anything installed on it yet. But on a computer where things have already been established, yes, I understand this can be hard because you have to change the file systems and back up. So you back up your files, format your hard drives and your SSDs, and change the file system, and then put the files back on. It's an excruciating process, and I've seen that firsthand. And ever since that painful process, I have seen wonders from using Linux alone. My friends keep asking me, will you ever get back to using Windows? And I'm like, no, I just would not. It has been a wonderful journey, me trying to use Linux in a country where everything, not country, in a world really, where everything stands between you and being a Linux user. Everything feels like it's normalizing Windows usership, making you feel like you're the weird one for using a different product or a different distro or a different OS altogether. Because sometimes, like even in Linux, there is a Linux on Linux war trying to talk about your favorite distro. Like people would be like, I use Arch, by the way. Well, I use Arch, by the way, in the form of CachyOS. But then again, people would be like, oh, CachyOS is just Arch but popular. Thing is, this brings us to another point. Does it have to be non-popular and niche and really, what's the word really other than niche? Does it have to be really niche to be a good distro? Really, think about it. It's kind of superficial how people put labels and everything, and that's how they determine whether something is good or not. Just enjoy your own distro, whether it's NixOS, whether it's Pop! OS, whether it's Ubuntu, Debian, Fedora, Arch. By the way, do what you like with your computer because it's yours. After all, it's called a PC, a personal computer. Even if you're going to use Windows on it, which even personally I wouldn't approve, but then again, even if you're going to use Windows on it, go ahead. With the bloat and spyware that comes with it, I don't care. It's your computer. Fuck you, Microsoft. But then again, don't come crying to me when it kind of explodes on you. I don't even know what would happen if I used Windows a lot more these days, Windows 11 specifically. Fuck! Linux has not disappointed. So let me talk a little bit about what I do using Linux. I do audio editing using Reaper, Kako's Reaper, and there is a Linux native version of Reaper. But when I do want to use my VSTs, directly using your VSTs on Linux Reaper, the Linux native version of Reaper. So what you do is use a tool called LinVST and LinVST3 to convert your VST and VST3 plugins into an absorbable form that Reaper, the Linux version here, can use, which is nice. It has been since then no latency, flawless production. Sometimes a little bit of issues with the GUI, the GUI. Sometimes the GUI doesn't even move at all when I have to, tweak things around. Let's say video editing. Yeah, I use Kdenlive now. I edited this video, by the way, using Kdenlive. I am planning on, by the way, editing my own band's music videos using Kdenlive, because Kdenlive, after all, is a product of KDE. I think it belongs to the KDE. I edit my photos with Krita. I think I have edited a bunch of logos using Krita and some of its various features. You can actually use Krita as an altogether complete replacement for Photoshop, because you don't need Photoshop even anymore. Free open source software is really the complete replacement for whatever you have to pay huge amounts of money for. Adobe at this point is just a name. Sony Vegas at this point is also just a name. I used to use Sony Vegas to edit my videos, but now I don't even feel obliged. Why? Free open source software. It's free, it's open source. What else do you want? And also, then again, when you think about it, it's free and open source, not because it's just out there for everyone to use it, but because the devs are pouring their heart and soul into it to give you a product, not because they want something from it, but because they want you to be able to do your work flawlessly and without fail, without having to think about what if you don't have any money. Why is it always like I'm gonna go on a little bit of a tirade, an anti-capitalist tirade about money and software. If you have to think about money when you're creating anything really, then what is the margin of loss or the margin of profit that you have to think about? If you have to pay huge amounts of money for your software and have every year to pay for a new version of Photoshop or a new version of Adobe CC or whatever it is that people buy. I'm not tuned into the market when it comes to Adobe products, so forgive me for that one. How much are you going to have to pay to maintain your own repertoire of software to be able to keep doing your work? You need the software to be able to do the work, but at some point you don't have to keep paying. But then again, people say, oh, well, that just feels like theft. You know what actually feels like theft? And it's not even piracy at this point. It's the money laundering bitches that put these heinous price tags on the software that you buy to make your own work, when there are other perfectly designed products that are open source and do the work you exactly want to perform. You don't have to maybe there are aspects of the industry I do not understand. But then again, if the FOSS alternative is right there, why are we even wasting money on this shit? GIMP, Krita, the other ones I can't remember. These are all open source. Kdenlive is also an open source video editing software. Audacity and Ardor are also audio editing software that are free. Reaper comes with a license, but it's relatively cheaper and it comes on Linux. For the love of fuck. Why do we have to pay huge amounts of money for not just the software, but also the OS? By the way, the only thing I've had to pay money for on this bitch is the hardware. The OS doesn't cost anything. The price tag is $0. It's free. The software, right from the distro's repository, it's free. Everything on this machine, software-wise, is free. Except for the games, at least, because at least I pay money for them on Steam. Why are we even arguing whether Linux is the better option, objectively speaking, at this point? Of course, I have to preface this and disclaim this by saying this is just one man's opinion. My opinion, you have yours. My subjective opinion tells me that using Windows at this point is... Well, at this point, it just doesn't feel like an opinion. It feels like a judgment that whoever uses Windows, knowing full well that Linux is an option, is willfully ignorant. You just can't keep doing that. You just can't keep using it like that. Windows is full of bugs, glitches, experience breaking, system breaking errors by default. Linux at least admits that the whole system updates itself on a continuous basis, and when something like this happens, it's in the change logs. It tells you that there's something that's going to happen. It doesn't force you to update, by the way. It tells you to update whenever you need to. At least on CachyOS, you can manually update or you can automatically update. It's up to you to determine. You are the super user in this case. It's up to you to determine whether you want to use your computer the way you like or not. All I want at this point is for people to understand that I use Linux because it's much smoother to use. It's much easier to use. I've been doing this for 4 years. I don't want to even go back to Windows anymore. This sentence might in itself sound a bit jumbled, but you get my point. I don't want to keep rambling about this a lot too much. But what I'm trying to say here is very simple. I use Linux. You are allowed to use what you want, but you have to also understand the repercussions that come with what you use and educate yourself. It is your responsibility to educate yourself and listen to others when they try to inform you on how absolutely experience breaking it is to continue to use Windows, not knowing the full capability of your actual hardware, of your actual system when you use Linux. That being said, do what you want with your computer. Don't come crying to me when Windows completely breaks. Finally, I'd like to update you all on what has been going on with me lately. My band Maddox Theory is making a return. Thank you. We are working on an EP. This has not yet been announced on the page, but we have said this to Two Worlds Metal, Tunisian metal band news page, which I'm excited for you to see because this has been an interview we've been waiting for a long time. Sohaib is a dear friend of mine from Tunisia, the country, which is an interview I'm hopefully waiting to see finally soon come to life on YouTube and other platforms. What I'm trying to say here is basically I've been doing a lot in the dark lately. At least with Zaire and our latest EP and the gigs that come following after, we've been doing a lot of thirsty work regarding music and creating music and playing music live. This has been my life lately, and I am thankful for this year and the lessons that came with it. And 2025 has been great. 2025 has been amazing. And I hope to see better things come out of 2026. I don't know what else to say. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. This has been the Egyptian Chino Moreno, Mustafa Gharib. And I will see you in the next one. Peace.